Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. We know you've been following along with our explorations into the Clampett crisis, those really extraordinary events.
Yeah, weeks that just changed everything, really.
Totally. So today, we're doing something a bit different. We're zooming in on one specific day, April 7th, 2025.
Right, we've got a collection of news articles all published that day.
And we're going to unpack them, really see what that immediate aftermath looked like, what people were talking about while the dust was still settling.
It's like a time capsule, isn't it? A snapshot of, public attention, the stories taking shape, the questions people had just days after. Well, after things none of us could have imagined.
It's fascinating, too, the range of topics, even with something so huge happening.
Definitely. You see Dr. Daniel Jackson popping up.
The ancient lore expert, yeah, crucial for contacting the Asgard.
Right. And then next headline, presidential candidates, and even that bizarre rumor about the footballer.
It's credible. It says something about, I don't know, human nature, resilience maybe, or just strangeness.
A bit of both, probably.
So our mission today, dig into each article, not just summarize, but really explore the implications, the anxieties underneath, how people were starting to process this totally new reality.
It sounds good. Where do we start?
Okay, first up, Dr. Daniel Jackson to visit our universe for first time since Clampett crisis. This one's out of Geneva.
That headline alone, it really tells you something, doesn't it? His first visit since. It frames him as this central figure still.
Absolutely. And the article lays out the purpose pretty clearly. Public engagement and interviews regarding his experiences.
People wanted firsthand accounts. You can feel that need. We've got the official reports, sure, and Dr. Finch's account, which we talked about.
Right, the CERN director's perspective.
But hearing from Jackson himself, someone whose specific knowledge, those ancient languages, actually did something critical, like contacting the Asgard, that carries a different weight.
Totally. The article reminds us how vital that contact was. Without him, who knows how the crisis might have played out. It could have been much worse.
And you see this implied trust in him. His expertise wasn't just academic. It led to a turning point. So his visit isn't just like a book tour. It's more significant.
Like a quest for understanding.
Yeah. And mentioning his link to Dr. Finch adds to that credibility. Finch's account gave us that ground-level, almost bewildered view. And Finch pointed to Jackson's contributions. So it reinforces that it was a team effort. In a way.
And that brings us to a really key quote in the article from Jackson himself. He confirms Finch's account captured the bewilderment and chaos.
Right, contrasting it with the official reports. He called them clinical.
That distinction feels important.
Yeah.
Official reports give you facts, dates, times, but the feeling, the sheer weirdness of it all.
Exactly. They often miss that human element. So Jackson validating Finch's more personal take suggests we need both kinds of stories to, really get it.
It's how we process things, isn't it? We need the data, but we also need the stories to make it feel real.
Precisely. That sheer strangeness, as he puts it later. Official language just can't quite capture that gap between, data points and lived experience.
So this first piece sets the scene. Jackson's back. And people see him as holding a key piece of the puzzle, the human reality of it all.
Yeah, a perspective beyond the clinical data. It offers a chance to connect.
Okay, perfect lead-in to the second article. Also about Dr. Jackson, this time from Ottawa. Interview with Dr. Daniel Jackson sheds light on the Clampett crisis.
Right, so this promises more detail. Sheds light implies we're getting something new, or at least a deeper dive than just the announcement of his visit.
And it picks up right where the other left off, mentioning that contrast again, his view versus the official report in Finch's account.
Suggests maybe a more nuanced take, perhaps, or just reinforcing his main point.
Seems like it. He doubles down on Finch capturing the bewilderment and chaos, and the official report being clinical, missing the sheer strangeness.
It's clearly a message he wants to get across. Like he feels a responsibility to ensure people understand the full texture of what happened, not just the bullet points.
And then the interview gets into specifics, which is interesting. Like Teal'c confronting the Lich King.
Yes. A huge moment.
Jackson admits emotions were incredibly high. He mentions the certain gravity of the words exchanged, but he couldn't confirm the dialogue we heard reported was, verbatim.
That adds a layer, doesn't it? Human fallibility, even in these massive, critical moments, reminds you it wasn't scripted. Just high stakes, raw interaction, perfect recall. Probably impossible.
Yeah, it really humanizes them. Even these figures who seem larger than life, Memory isn't perfect under that kind of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And then his description of the helm shattering, the Lich King vanishing, he calls it chaotic and blurry.
Reinforces that idea. These weren't neat, tidy events. They were messy, overwhelming, rapid, unpredictable.
Speaks to the sheer chaos they were dealing with.
Exactly. The fog of war, but on an interdimensional scale almost. Details get lost.
But then, he does confirm Finch's account about the Antarctic Stargate, contacting the Asgard.
Calls it our only hope. Says Thor's arrival was a turning point.
So he validates those absolutely crucial actions, the desperate measures, the importance of that interspecies help.
Which is vital confirmation. But then the interview shifts to something heavier.
The Russian population, those affected by the transformations.
Yes. He agrees the official reports downplayed the long-term effects, the mental damage. He calls it a tragedy that's still unfolding.
Wow. That's quite a statement. It really leans into those darker undertones we've sometimes picked up on. The idea that maybe the immediate threat is gone, but the human cost,
especially for those directly changed by it all,
is still a massive ongoing issue. Maybe a blind spot in the official story, focusing on the win, but maybe not enough on the fallout.
It highlights that crucial point about any crisis, right? The immediate aftermath is just chapter one. The long-term stuff, psychological, societal, that often gets overlooked initially.
His focus on it suggests real concern and maybe a need for more support, more understanding for those people.
Absolutely. And his final comment in the interview about getting the full story out. It ties it all together. He's not just a historian here.
He sees a duty to make sure the whole picture is understood. The events, yes, but also the lasting human impact.
Definitely.
All right, let's shift gears. The next two articles are from Seattle. Both focus on the Western states presidential race, and specifically how the candidates are reacting to Jackson's return.
The political angle.
First one, Gillis weighs in. Presidential race and Jackson's return. Gillis, the prominent timber baron.
Right. And his perspective sounds very, well, business-focused, leaning hard on his background.
Totally. Projecting stability, competence, using phrases like practical solutions, understands complex industries, track record.
All geared towards reassuring voters after massive disruption. He's pitching himself as the guy for economic growth and stability.
The back-to-normalcy candidate, almost. Appealing to that desire to rebuild, focus on the tangible.
Makes sense as a strategy.
And when he talks about Dr. Jackson, he acknowledges the crucial expertise, the contributions during the crisis. It's respectful.
But notice how quick the pivot is. A nod to Jackson. Yes, you can't really ignore him, but then straight back to the core message.
Learn from the past, but address current challenges. Focus on building a strong and prosperous future.
Yeah, no deep dive into what Jackson's visit means, no personal reflection on the crisis itself. It's very much about keeping the spotlight on his economic platform. Strategic.
It definitely shows one way leaders might approach this. Move forward, focus on recovery, maybe downplay the lingering weirdness or trauma.
A clear contrast to the next one, it seems.
Exactly. Let's look at the other Seattle piece. Bradley's perspective. Elections and Jackson's return. Bobby Jo Bradley described as a rising figure.
And her approach sounds very different, more about emotion, ideals.
Yes. Hope and compassion. Belief in the inherent goodness of the universe. It paints her as more empathetic.
And connects to her role during the crisis, right? Influencing the last alliance towards a less destructive option for Antarctica. That unwavering optimism.
That moment clearly defined her image. Hope. Unity.
So how does she frame Jackson's return?
Much warmer language than Gillis. Expresses gratitude for his invaluable expertise, his work with SG-1. More personal.
Okay. So less about pivoting away, more about integrating it.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
She frames his visit as a chance to learn, to build a better future. Remember the lessons learned. Continue to work together.
Consistent with her overall message, then, hope, compassion, collaboration, suggests she sees dealing with the crisis fallout as needing a more holistic approach, human-centered.
It's a really stark contrast, isn't it?
I love.
The businessman, focus on economy. Bradley, the optimist, focus on healing learning.
Two very different visions for moving forward.
Now, speaking of Jackson himself, the next article, from Ottawa, again, tackles his stance directly. Dr. Daniel Jackson remains neutral on Western states' election.
Not surprising, really. Given his role, he's an expert focused on the crisis itself, not, partisan politics.
Right. The article says he was asked directly if he favored a candidate.
And his answer?
A clear no endorsement. Said his focus is ensuring the full story of the climate crisis is understood.
Makes total sense. Taking sides could undermine his whole purpose for being there, couldn't it? Color how people receive his insights?
Exactly. His endorsement would immediately be viewed through a political lens. It could overshadow well, the historical and scientific importance of what he's sharing.
So he acknowledges the candidates have opinions on his return.
But steps back, reiterates his neutrality. His job, as he sees it, is the past events, their meaning, not interfering in current politics.
Reinforces that image of dedication to understanding, above the political fray. Smart move.
Okay, one more on Jackson, shifting focus again. This one's also from Geneva. Jackson addresses geopolitical concerns, clarifies role. So people aren't just asking about the election.
So the wider ripples. It seems the crisis is impacting, or at least being linked to, other global issues.
Yeah, the article mentions questions about Kazakhstan's territorial claims and also those Orshish skirmishes down in Tennessee.
It shows how something like the interdimensional breaches can shake everything up, exacerbate old tensions, create completely new problems, makes people rethink everything.
And Jackson's response, similar to the election question, really.
He clarifies his role.
Yep. Says his expertise is history, context, understanding why things happen, but direct intervention in current geopolitics. Not within my purview.
So observer, analyst, not an actor. Draws on the past, doesn't try to dictate the present.
But he does connect it back to the Clampett crisis. Significantly, I think.
How so?
He mentioned the lessons learned then, cooperation and understanding different perspectives.
Yeah.
Suggests those same principles might apply now, even to these more normal conflicts.
So he's offering a framework, maybe, a way to think about solving problems based on that crisis experience, even if he's not mediating directly.
Exactly. He stresses diplomacy, cooperation, and again, reiterates his visit is about the Clampett crisis experience not being a political fixer. Carefully drawing lines.
He seems very aware of the boundaries of his role.
Okay, now for our last article. And this one's, well, it's out there. From Nashville. Is Kargil Death Cleaver really Ronaldo? A wild theory emerges.
Slight pause. Ronaldo. As in Cristiano Ronaldo, the football player.
The very same. The theory is that Kargil Death Cleaver, the orc leader in Tennessee, might be him.
Short chuckle. Okay,
Yeah.
That's unexpected. What's the basis for this wild theory?
It's thin. Very thin. Supposedly similarities in commanding presence, Ronaldo's on-field persona,
Right.
and the fact he was apparently on vacation in Florida around the time of the Clampett crisis.
And the leap from that to transformed into an orc leader is quite something.
It's a testament to human imagination, maybe, or just a sign of how disoriented people are trying to make sense of the absolutely nonsensical.
It does show how people grasp for familiar things, doesn't it? Even in bizarre ways. Latching onto a famous face. Maybe it's an attempt to impose some kind of weird order on the chaos of those transformations.
Could be. The article is quick to say there's zero actual evidence, thankfully. That's crucial.
Absolutely vital disclaimer.
It points out Death Cleaver is described as brutal, cunning,
Yeah.
and the transformation seemed random, chaotic, not targeted like that.
Highly improbable, yes.
Right.
But the fact the rumor exists at all, it tells you something about the post-crisis mindset.
Where the lines of possibility have just been completely redrawn, so maybe even the most outlandish ideas get a bit of traction.
It's a strange side effect of this new reality, I suppose. The unbelievable becomes, well, believable to some.
The article ends pretty sensibly, though. Warns against spreading rumors, but acknowledges how strange the world feels now. Good advice. Keep thinking critically even when things are weird.
Indeed. This last article, as frivolous as it seems, actually gives us a peek into the psychological impact, how the extraordinary can almost become normalized, blurring fact and fiction in the public mind.
So looking back at all these articles from just one day, April 7th, 2025, what a snapshot.
It really is. You see Dr. Jackson still central, this figure of knowledge.
You see the political gears turning, leaders trying to frame the path forward.
The old geopolitical tensions flaring up, but now viewed through this new, strange lens.
And yeah, even these bizarre, almost darkly funny attempts to process the unbelievable, like the Ronaldo thing.
Taken together, they paint this rich, complex picture of a world reeling, adapting, the immediate reactions, the first attempts to make sense of it all.
It really drives home how looking at these moments, these immediate responses, helps us understand the long game, the long-term consequences.
It's not just the big narrative of the crisis. It's how people, individuals, societies tried to piece things back together afterwards. The rumors, the politics, the search for meaning.
In a world that suddenly felt a whole lot bigger and weirder.
Which leaves us with some things to think about, maybe. How do societies rebuild not just buildings, but shared understanding after something that shatters the old rules?
And what's the real role of people like Dr. Jackson in that? Is it just facts or something more? Helping shape the story we tell ourselves.
And how do we navigate all this influx of the unbelievable? How do we hold on to critical thinking when reality itself feels, well, slippery?
Lots to chew on there. A fascinating glimpse, though, into a world right on the cusp of, well, whatever came next after the climate crisis.